Hi sir, how are you doing today?
So being a part of this network, the kind of head start you got was massive. Charges
Yeah.
pay कर देने हैं पूरी दुनिया में वैसा नहीं है. If you move to an EV, why would you move?
What are the various challenges you think that the EV segment as a whole is facing?
That's one major advantage that China has.
Is there any advantage that India holds?
That's the biggest challenge for any leader.
What advice do you have, for all our viewers and all the youngsters who want to make it big?
I think first and foremost is
Hello, my name is Roshan Rajesh and a very warm welcome. This is
Dhrudaspuri.
we are the founders of Synapse, the strategy and data analytics club that falls under the School of Business Management at Christ University, Bannerghatta Road campus.
The core philosophy of the club is to provide value to each and every individual who participates with the environment of the club, be it the host of the event, be it the members of the club or the university. And for the same, we organize a plethora of events all across the year.
So I hope you enjoy your experience. Thank you.
So currently, the battery swapping and charging infrastructure in India is not that developed. And so what kind of, capital expenditure, either on the government's end, companies' end, and what all changes are we looking at to ensure that throughout the country, not just metropolis, so throughout the country, we have a very robust system for EVs.
I think fundamentally we need to understand where do EVs fit into the use case. Everyone talks about we need to have great infrastructure. Charges
Yeah.
pay कर देने हैं पूरी दुनिया में वैसा नहीं है. Let me ask you a question. When you have a petrol scooter today or a petrol bike today,
Yeah.
if you move to an EV, why would you move? One is driving pleasure.
Yeah.
Great. Let's put that aside. Everyone Ather is a great scooter. Everyone who likes driving it, who's driven it would love it.
Yeah.
Extreme surge, linear acceleration, linear power pickup, all of that is great. But one of the major use cases or one of the major reasons why people move to EVs is the lower cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Right? Per unit of electricity, when you charge your battery, I think you can run per kilometer at 20-25 paisa.
Yeah.
If you charge it at home in the night, off peak tariff, you can probably run for 10 paisa. Your two-wheelers I'm talking.
Yeah.
Whereas a typical petrol bike, for the same kind of power output and for same kind of driving pleasure, well, you'll probably be spending 3.5-4 rupees a kilometer.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's simple economics. You've paid 40,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees upfront for the battery. That's the cost difference. At least let's say 40,000 rupees. Now, the cost of that capital over a period of 3-4 years can only be recovered if you drive a certain number of kilometers every day.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right? आप दिन में 10 किलोमीटर चला रहे हो, you won't be able to recover that cost ever.
Yeah.
When you start driving 40-50 kilometers, then you say, okay, 50 kilometers, now I'm recovering 200 rupees a day. Now this makes sense that I'll be able to recover this battery's price within 3 years. You don't want to recover it over 8 years because that doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of EV decisions today are divided into two parts. One is the personal segment who is buying it for two reasons. Either it's driving pleasure or they are actually driving it quite a bit. The second is actual commercial use cases. So you see a lot of EV small trucks being used. You see a lot of EV, three-wheelers. You see a lot of electric two-wheelers being used as bike taxis or for deliveries. The reason for that is because they drive a lot. So the recovery for that initial battery cost happens faster. Right? Now, if you look at how this is going to shape up in the metro industries, in the metro cities, you will always have demand.
Yeah.
People will drive more. Would you have that much demand in a tier 2 city? Probably no.
Yeah.
And would you need as dense a network there? Probably
No.
Because you won't be driving 50 kilometers in a tier 3 town every day.
Yeah.
You might be driving to nearby towns, but जाओ वापस आओ अपने घर में चार्जर लगा plug point लगा charge कर लो. How does it matter? So I think the whole onus on the government alone to create that infrastructure is not correct. I think a lot of these companies are creating this infrastructure, and that's also being created in bulk. It's being created in the form of large hubs. There's a lot of personal infrastructure that people are creating. I've seen complexes where I have an EV charger, I'm sharing it with 10 people.
Oh, okay.
Wherein anyone who wants an EV, who has an EV can charge it. So I think that infrastructure creation will happen public, private, as well as in the government, all three. And it will happen only in locations where ownership of an EV makes sense. Having it all across the country is, in my head, people want it, but will it actually have any kind of utilization? I'm not sure of at the moment.
Okay. Okay. So as you said, you talked about the economies. So now obviously because people are transitioning, people know about this segment, but there are still majority of the consumer in the ICE segment. So we like basically the economics just made complete sense to me that yeah, you're going to be saving a lot if you're traveling daily basis. So how, important do you think like giving this education is to the people? Because I think this can be a very good marketing strategy for, various companies who are in this segment, just educate people because it anyways makes sense. So they will automatically come to you.
People are doing it. I think every major EV player, if you look today, or every major, so I'll just say talk two-wheelers because those are the major,
Yeah.
selling. That's a big selling chunk. If you go to any, of these showrooms, you'll always have people educating you. Okay, this is the number of kilometers you can drive. This is how much you can save. They'll be able to tell you. I think the decision today to not buy an EV is driven by two factors. One is access to charging infrastructure.
Okay.
If you live in a high rise,
Yeah.
6th floor, how will you charge an EV? If your apartment doesn't permit you to install a charging point,
Yeah.
what will you do? You have to go to a public charging point. Is that always available? Is that reliable?
Yeah.
All of those factors come
Plus the
into.
waiting period that you have to
Yes.
wait there for the
So
charge.
all of those things come into the picture. The second thing is obviously, am I even driving enough? If I'm driving 10 kilometers, why do I need an EV?
Yeah.
I'm spending 30 rupees a day.
Yeah.
That's the factor. I'll never be able to recover the battery cost. Those are two factors that are driving EV adoption.
Makes sense.
But people are educating the customers, definitely.
So what are the various challenges you think that the EV segment as a whole is facing, and then you at Yuma, as a battery swapping company is facing?
I wouldn't say Yuma categorically, but generally the industry, battery swapping industry is facing, can benefit from two things. It's not a challenge, but it can benefit from two things. One is any time you deploy batteries in the field, it's an asset.
Okay.
And if an asset is not being utilized, it's sitting on your books. So financially, it does not make any sense. I think asset utilization is one challenge that every battery swapping company faces today, and will continue to face over the next 2-3 years till the time the penetration of EVs and the adoption of bus as a model comes in a major way. The second thing is, I think the government gives a lot of incentives for EVs with fixed batteries.
Okay.
There's not a lot of there's no incentive probably for EVs with swappable batteries, or rather swappable batteries itself. I think that when comes in, it'll also drive a lot of economies of scale, and it'll improve the unit economics of the current players, and there they will be able to make a major push for the adoption.
Oh, okay, sir. Yes. Sir, so what right now, China is like one of the leading players in EV, and even we are trying to learn things from them. So what all do you think that we can take right now from the various Chinese players, that India and the EVs in India can be taking to make the product better and to sell it more?
I think I've seen a bunch of products from China. I think there's more than anything else. I think one thing is this is their economies of scale.
Okay.
They've been able to dominate every aspect of the ecosystem, like right from cell production to battery production to vehicle production, because of the scale at which they're manufacturing. BYD is the largest manufacturer in vehicles. You're some of the largest battery manufacturers sitting in China. Cell production, China dominates. I think just that whole economies of scale, just a gigantic manufacturing setup that they have for the entire ecosystem. I think that's where, uh, you know, that's where we can benefit in India. The government is making very strong push. There's a lot of, PLI schemes that are coming out to encourage manufacturing in India. And once, of course, when you set up all of those with that initial impetus or that initial help from the government, when you set up all of these manufacturing units, over a period of time, they start making sense. So it will take us time to catch up. But I think that's one major advantage that China has today, just in manufacturing heft.
Okay. So, sir, is there any advantage that India holds either currently or that you think in the next 3 to 5 years we will have compared to China that, makes our products or, the manufacturing capacity or anything better?
I wouldn't say it will be in product advantage versus China, but I would say any product that's manufactured in India for India will work better.
Yeah.
Anything that's coming from other countries here and is being kind of force fitted here might not work, but anything that's being manufactured, designed designed, developed, and manufactured in India for India, for India's conditions will work great.
Okay.
I think that's where a lot of these government incentives, a lot of these push, and to your earlier question, a lot of these startups
Yeah.
who are coming in will provide a lot of impetus to the sector. Because ऐसा नहीं होगा कि eventually everyone will be manufacturing vehicles. Some might decide, okay, we'll go into specifically designing of vehicles.
Yeah.
Some might say we'll go into only battery R&D.
Yeah.
Some else say we'll only go into battery manufacturing. All of these startups, all of these new companies will find ways to contribute to the ecosystem, and the government is backing them.
Right.
So, will we have uh, an advantage versus China? I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
think we will.
Okay.
I think our advantage will be all of our own. Versus today, 5 years from now, I think we would have done a great job in the next 5 years with all the things that are happening in the sector.
Okay. Sir, so like we mentioned previously about the overcrowding, now that you speak about specialization, so I think there is a lot of research happening, like because every company coming in knows that Ola and Ether are right now the giants and they want to come in. So I think that research and development is going to help us a lot in the next 3 to 5 years in
Absolutely.
becoming better.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. So yeah, my next question is right now, you're the head of operations and revenue and you have a background from IIT. So as as a aspiring entrepreneur, how important is having the absolute technical knowledge of the product with respect to, let's say the EV industry itself? So how important do you think it is?
I think it depends on what you're trying to get into. See, EV industry is very wide. There is, there's designing of batteries, there's designing of chargers, there's designing of equipment. That's the hardware.
Okay.
Then there's the software part of it. And then there is the actual operational part of it. There are three parts. There's hardware is actually your charging units, your batteries, your chargers. Then software is that enables the use of all of this. And then there is an operational part which basically creates that ecosystem or that network where all of these are utilized.
Yeah.
If you're getting into hardware, for sure you need to be very strong technically. If you're getting into software, again, you need to be very strong technically. Operations, do you need to understand this in depth? No. Do you need to understand? Yes. Do you need to be expert here? A subject matter expert? Probably no. I'm not a subject matter expert in battery chemistries. I'm being very honest about it.
Okay.
But do I understand the broad, pros and cons of each battery chemistry? Yes, I do. Would you, if you were to tell me, okay, can you design a battery? Hell no, not for my life.
Okay.
But can I run excellent operations with that? Yes, I can.
Okay.
Because the skills required for running those operations, for running that business is very different. It's not technical skill. It's more of common sense. It's more of first principles thinking. It's more of problem solving approach. I think, and a very strong customer focus.
Okay. So, speaking about like right now, you're an operations manager, but for a lot of people, operations, they think of, you're in a factory or something. But now the setting is changing. So can you speak about how, the operations aspect of it is no longer limited to that?
I think this changed when the gig economy took its roots in India. So the first time when Ola, Uber, Urban Company, some of the first pioneers of gig economy, Zomato, when they came in India, I think that's when people started realizing that operations, that's when people started hiring operations managers. Some of these companies started hiring people and started calling them operations managers. The way they used to define operations was so alien to people at that point of time. I remember when I joined Uber, somebody told me, "You're joining operations management." I was like, what the hell? Operations in my head also was, basis traditional understanding was you go into, operations, supply chain is something that you think of as a basket. So you'll be probably working in a plant. You'll probably be working in manufacturing. I think operations in the modern day concept is anything that's related to a process which is on the ground, which is not on your phone, which is not digital, but a physical process that's happening on the ground, and the data that comes with it, and then you need to use that to optimize that process. Anything that is controlling that process is operations today.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, when I joined Uber, I used to do driver onboarding. Uber, basically, if you look at it, it's an app where people register, you book. As a rider, you book and you get customers, and you get customers book and riders and drivers can come in.
Yeah.
But what will an operations manager do there? All the physical on-ground processes used to be done by operations. So driver onboarding, driver training, driver safety, uh, compliance. All of these things used to be done by operations. So operations became a very generic, broad umbrella term to define any kind of role that involves managing a physical process and optimizing it using data, which today anybody can do.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, you're at a very senior position. You're the head of operations and revenue. So what are the problems that a person at your position faces?
I think there's a very clear when you grow into certain roles, when you grow, and your scope grows, your scope of work and your scope of team, the span of your control grows. You need to have a very clear understanding of three aspects. What do you do? What do you delegate? And what do you decide? The three Ds.
Okay.
As an individual contributor, when you get into any company, you will be doing things on your own.
Yeah.
सब खुद करो.
Mm.
That's what your job is.
Yeah.
When you grow, you have to make a decision on what is it that you will delegate to other people, where your time will best be utilized on something else, but there's someone else who you've hired who's good at this and you can delegate. The third is what you will decide. That's one major bottleneck. A lot of leaders want to keep their decisions with them. सब कुछ मैं decide करूंगा, but then you become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
So if you can decide on these three Ds, what will you do? What will you delegate? And where will you have your decision making? Where will you decide? If you can just define those very clearly, that's the biggest challenge for any leader. In my org or in other orgs, or everywhere where I've talked to mid-senior people, that's one challenge that they face.
Yeah. So, sir, right now, the startup sector is booming and there are a lot of founders. So, I think they will definitely be facing the exact same problem that you mentioned. So, with the doing part, though, obviously, you'll want to do mostly everything, but as you get people, you'll do it. But how do you understand what to delegate and more importantly, what to decide? Because what you decide makes you a good leader. So, how do you go about that process?
I think what to delegate is dependent on what kind of value add you are having.
Okay.
To a certain process, to a certain function. When you were doing it on your own, you were doing it great. But now, when you've grown, you can probably hire. I think that's where one major piece where a lot of people struggle with. Always hire people who are better than you. Always. A lot of insecure leaders are not able to do that.
Yeah.
So if you hire people better than you can trust and delegate very easily. I know the person मैंने बनाया, he's good at designing incentive structures for gig economy drivers better than me. I just give him the broad concepts. This is the goal that I have to achieve. Now you go ahead and do it. Let him do it.
Okay.
I think delegation, the first step is you hire people who are better than you at specific functions. And then you spend time with them so that they start operating at your same wavelength.
Okay.
If you can't trust them, you'll not be able to delegate very easily. You'll then be micromanaging.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different problem altogether.
Yeah.
If I'm spending 5 hours micromanaging and checking your work, what's the point of giving you something? Which I might have done it in lesser time on my own. Right? I'm having my own work and then I'm spending 5 to 6 extra hours to manage your work. That shouldn't happen. So ideally, I should, before delegation, hire a smart person who's better than you and then make sure he's working at that same wavelength as you. On the decision-making part, my personal philosophy is anything which is a two-way door decision. This is something that I learned formally at Amazon, but I've been practicing it for the last decade or so.
Okay.
Anything that's a two-way door decision, or you can let your team decide.
Can you explain that?
I'll explain that. A two-way door is basically when it opens both ways. So you can walk out, you can come in.
Okay.
Right? A one-way door is you've gone, you're gone. Anything that's two-way door is reversible.
Okay.
The stakes are not high. It's a mistake that can be rectified. Right? So two-way door decisions, you let your team decide. They will learn and they will thank you for it because they're able to take decisions independently. When you talk of one-way door decisions, those are high-stake decisions. Those are decisions which can make or break the business or make or break an initiative. There you need to get involved because a lot of the expertise that you bring in terms of experience, in terms of वो कहते हैं ना gut instinct. It's nothing but experience. Uh, that is important for one-way door decisions, not for two-way door decisions.
Okay.
So I think if I the personal philosophy that I follow is always let two-way door decisions be with your team. Till the time, of course, you start testing them in one-way door decisions also. But otherwise, one-way door decisions you keep with yourself because this will be table stakes.
Okay. So, sir, right now, with especially with the AI boom, right now, ChatGPT came like 2 years ago, but it seems like it's been an eternity now, and it feels as if the world is moving at a very fast pace now. So, how do you ensure that you're constantly adapting and able to capitalize on the direction of the market? Yeah. So, how do you?
I think it's not related to ChatGPT generally, but
Yeah.
I think the broad answer is keeping your ears open
Okay.
and being humble. When you have spent time in the industry for a certain period of time, you start thinking that you know everything, and you start thinking or you start believing that your anecdotes are actually insights, and that just takes away the humility out of you. You refuse to then learn, you refuse to gather new perspectives. So, to make sure that you're able to absorb everything that's happening around you, you need to be very, very humble and very, very open to listening. The one thing that I always tell, at least my team, is you're all better than me at what you do.
Yeah.
My only job is to sit down and understand what you're, telling. And then because all of this information from 10 different people is coming to me, one source, then I can join it and maybe present a coherent direction to my team. That's my job. So they do their jobs well. My job is to make sure that I listen patiently, and I'm very, very humble about it because, of course, they know for their functions, they know everything much better than I do.
Okay. Excellent, sir. Sir, so what is a quote or a philosophy that you've truly believed in that has shaped your life?
Uh, there used to be a concept which I used to share with my team and I've constantly shared with them so far. It's something that I call the intent context matrix.
Okay.
So you map your intent on the y-axis, you map your context on the x-axis, and you get 4 quadrants: low intent, low context, high intent, high context, high intent, low context, and high context, low intent, whatever. So I generally feel when you start working with people, always trust their intent more. Judge them on their intent more. A lot of people might not have the context of the problem you're solving. Tomorrow, if you, let's say, join my team, my first judgment of you will not be basis the context of the problem that do you have that. No, you won't, obviously won't.
Yeah.
But I will judge you for the intent that you have. Do you have the intent to solve problem? Do you have the intent to learn? Do you have the intent to work hard? As long as that intent exists, I think context I can provide you.
Okay.
A context you will get. Most people struggle uh, because they are so ingrained in their own context that they forget that they have to show intent also. This philosophy is personally my favorite. I always judge people basis their intent, not basis their context. Context can be provided. As long as you have good intent, you'll always be an asset.
Oh, amazing, sir. So what's the best piece of advice you've gotten?
I think this was from this gentleman named Pradeep Parmeswaran. I worked with him for a brief period during my Uber days. And he sat me down one day and he said, Deepak, there are 4 jobs of a leader, 4 tasks. Broadly, anything and everything that you do can be divided into these 4 pillars. And he said, a leader, and the 4 functions that he contributes on is thought, lead, govern, enable.
Okay.
Thought is thought leadership. So you think 10 steps ahead. You think 6 months, 1 year, 2 years into the future.
Okay.
That's thought leadership. Where I want my business to be. Then there is lead. There are specific, can say initiatives in your org or specific things in your org which nobody will own. Not one person can own. They're large cross-functional collaborations which you as a leader need to lead. Let's say I need to define the cultural norms of my organization. I should be able to lead that. Then there is govern. You need to set governances in place so that you know what is happening when, how is it happening, what's trending in the right direction, what's not trending in the right direction. And you have a pulse of the business. And the last one is enable.
Okay.
How can you enable your team to go past the roadblocks? You don't need to do their jobs for them. You need to make sure they do their jobs well, and you need to make sure that all the roadblocks that are there in their paths, you remove them.
Mm.
Thought, lead, govern, enable. That was one of the best advice. I always stand by it.
Yes, sir. What's like one of the worst advice you've gotten now?
Wow. Um, I I wouldn't say it was the worst advice. It was not a very useful advice. There was this the person I had hired, a fairly junior guy, 2 years out of college, and I sent him into a meeting instead of me.
Okay.
I said, now that you're here, why don't you go and represent me if I were to use that? And he obviously, when you're young, you're also, you lack tact
Okay.
more than anything else. He was a very brilliant guy, but he lacked the tact, and he ended up rubbing some people off the wrong way. The advice that I got after that was, why are you trusting junior people with this level of, representation?
Mhm.
I think that's not the case. I trust that guy today. I'm still in touch. Great guy. He's done well in life. Yeah. I don't think you should judge people basis, how many gray hair they have on their heads. I think you should judge them more on the basis of what do they bring to the table in terms of intent. That guy's intent was in the right place.
Okay.
He might have lacked context in terms of how to treat people,
Hmm.
or maybe some level of EQ, maybe some level of tact in managing relationships or managing, an audience. But he made up more than that in terms of intent. I've actually had 2, 3 such people actually in my life. I would say judge people by intent. So that was one bad advice.
Oh, our users would love this advice. So thank you so much. So last question for this podcast. What advice do you have, for all our viewers and all the youngsters who want to make it big, irrespective of the industry,
Hmm.
who really want to make it big? What advice do you have for us?
Uh, I think first and foremost is discipline. Uh, when you get into, and typically, I would say 20 years back, the scenario was very different. When you look at today, the amount of access you have to information, to activities that you can do, uh, you just end up, putting in a lot of time, a lot of places, and not getting into that. Lack of focus and lack of direction just goes away. I think first is knowing what do you want to do really. Spend time on it. You can't make space for everything in your life. Prioritize, and then be disciplined about it.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people pick up different things and then just run out of steam within a couple of months.
Mhm.
This guy who I remember, he came to me and said, "Sir, मुझे SQL सीखना है, advanced SQL." I said, "Great. How can I enable it, sir? I want this permission for a course." I said, "Go ahead and do it."
Mhm.
1.5 months later, how's it going? I said, "Sir, I didn't pursue it. We didn't even like start it. Why? Because I started taking some free courses and then I lacked interest, and I think he just ran out of that focus, and that wasn't there. Discipline in my head is the most important thing that people can have. One. Second is humility. Uh, you always need to keep learning. You always need to be like a sponge. You
Mhm.
need to every time you talk to people, every time you're in an environment where you have peers, you have colleagues, or you have in your first formative years as a professional, always be very humble. Always learn from other people. You might not know everything. Have good intent. Work hard.
Mm.
I wouldn't say, burn the midnight oil. Work hard. Learn. You will get the context. And the third most important thing is, I think, that belief that, you know, all you have to collaborate to be successful.
Mm.
A lot of people, when they come out of this competitive nature, fresh out of college, उनको लगता है, अरे मैं अब college में घुसा हूँ, 15 people have been recruited to me, I'll be the first one to get promotion. Great. But you can't be successful alone. Eventually, you will realize that.
Yeah.
It's important to collaborate. It's important to be a part of team, be a part of a small group that provides you support, that provides you an ecosystem for learning, that provides an ecosystem for development. So I think that's the third most important. Most people become too competitive and they forget collaboration. Uh,
Thank you so much, sir. We hope you liked coming here. We definitely loved having you here. This was great, and
thank
we
you
look
so
forward
much.
to having you in the future as well. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching till the end. We hope you liked it. Stay tuned for more such insightful podcasts.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe Team Synapse.